Oh, so I, Hi, so I'm Anna Mills. I teach English at College of Marin in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And my co-host is Julie Gamberg. She'll introduce herself in a minute. And we are here to share with you an approach that we've been part of developing called Peer and AI Review Plus Reflection, or PAIR. We'll keep saying PAIR. And it's an invitation to you to engage with it, to share your own approaches. We're sharing our materials freely, and so we look forward to discussion. Um, and this project is a collaboration that's supported by the California Education Learning Lab. Um, and principal investigators are Carl Whithouse and Marit MacArthur of University of California, Davis. But our team includes 16 faculty from 8 public colleges and universities. So it's a big team. And if you would just share your name and where you're joining from and your discipline, that would be lovely in the chat. You can keep the chat going. We are very open if you have questions as we go. Lila, wonderful, welcome. And Julie, you want to?
Yeah, beautiful. I put in the chat that we'll answer questions at the end, but we're a small
Oh,
group. So yeah, we can absolutely answer questions as we go too. That's beautiful. And we both love a lively chat. So feel free, and we're pretty good at checking the chat as we go. So feel free to to engage in whatever kind of chat discourse feels good for you. Let me just quickly review our plan for today and welcome again. I am Julie Gamberg and I teach English composition, humanities, and creative writing at a college in the Los Angeles area in the United States with a specialization in humanized, equitized online ed. So our plan for today, for this hour is Anna and I, we're going to tell you a little bit about the PAIR project. We're going to give you a chance to try it out. And we're going to start out by giving you a little bit of a sense of the PAIR philosophy, the importance of including the human, peer, and instructor in working with AI, as well as around feedback in college courses, writing feedback. And we'll share some details about the PAIR project, including the readings that students do, how we provide feedback, and then the reflection component of this project, having students develop a metacognitive model that helps them think about feedback from multiple places. We'll talk about the 2 AI feedback prompts that we've tested and developed and that we invite your input on, as well as how to customize AI feedback in terms of reflection assignments. And finally, how to manage the work logistics of integrating the PAIR protocol into classroom activities and into learning management systems. And we will reserve time at the end for Q&A, but as Anna said, we can pause along the way as well. And I think the next slide, are we there? Yeah, beautiful, thank you. So one important component about PAIR is the reflection piece. That's the last R in PAIR. And one of the goals of PAIR is developing metacognitive models for students who are working with AI tools. So we know that AI is here. It has and will continue to impact the ways that we teach. And we don't think the solution is only handwritten work under strict proctored conditions as kind of the way out of this. We have to figure out how students will have agency with AI, how they will develop and use it effectively, and which is at the heart of the PAIR model, like the idea of making students critical users of AI tool systems, but also keeping the humans as part of that. And we do also want to recognize that if AI technologies are implemented in really narrow fashions where they're promising students just to produce beautiful text, there are these really slick ed tech programs that keep the teachers out of the loop, that don't draw on teaching expertise. Studies have shown that these actually deepen educational divides, which is part of what the project faculty members want to make sure we avoid with the PAIRR model. And then finally, PAIRR as a philosophy, and then really as a practice, emphasizes students being engaged in assessing how they're developing their writing processes, their knowledge about writing, as well as the strength of the final products, but also that they have a critical engagement with both peer feedback and AI feedback, deciding what to include and what not to include, that metacognitive piece of it that's so important. So this, we believe, makes them stronger and better writers overall. And that is kind of the scope of the PAIRR project. I'm going to turn it back to Anna, who's going to talk a little bit more about the PAIRR model specifically and how that helps us build this metacognitive approach to writing, as well as she'll review some key findings from this approach.
Yeah. So it's a pretty simple model. It moves in stages. The students don't use AI for the drafting. Um, that's the idea. And then they get peer feedback first, and then they get AI feedback, and then they reflect on both. So the combination, comparing them, deciding what they like and don't like from either or both, and then they revise. And so it's always that sequence. Um, and Julie talked a little about the why, but I would just emphasize a couple other things here that even when we want to center human feedback, AI does provide more opportunities for feedback, and it's an opportunity to engage with AI critically and build AI literacy. So that's the argument for including it. Um, so even when we want to center writing as social and rhetorical and as human communication, it can be a complement. Um, but we're still looking at relationships as key with peers and teachers because of the ways they impact engagement, motivation, sense of belonging. These are correlated with success and retention, according to studies. And we also are centering the value of the metacognition, as Julie mentioned, and linguistic justice and equity, which means that students are learning to value their own voices, their own ways of putting words together, and to trust themselves, not to look to AI as the oracle, as the authority. So we are building on the research that began at UC Davis in 2023 to 2024 with 654 students across a number of large STEM classes and writing courses. And this research was just published in Computers and Composition. And you can check out more about that from the slides links. So the researchers found that peer and AI feedback were often similar and mutually reinforcing. They were looking at student reflections primarily. And so students were reporting that they saw these similarities and that when there were differences, those could be complementary. So maybe they were getting feedback on different aspects of writing that the peers didn't mention, and vice versa. And they found that evaluating AI feedback did foster student agency and critical AI literacy. So asking that question, do I agree with this feedback? Did it get it right? But even among students who found the AI feedback useful, many valued human feedback more. So they did not want to give it up. Engaging with AI did not make them want to stop seeking out human feedback. And at the same time, they saw some advantages to the AI feedback, including how it could adhere to rubrics and give sort of concrete revision strategies. And I have way too many things on my screen, so there we go. And the other thing that they noted was that the AI offered both positive and critical feedback. So sometimes it was validating. And now, Julie's,
Beautiful.
yeah, go ahead.
And I have a quick question for you. I'm gonna share some of our, as you know, our AI literacy readings and a little bit about linguistic justice. And I'm wondering, given our small size, if we want to pause for
Mhm.
questions at that point after I share that. Does that sound good to you?
Sure, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. So um, Another important component of the PAIRR model is that students do some essential readings before they jump into the human peer, and AI writing feedback. Um, Editing and curation was really key here as we recognize the challenges of adding readings to our courses across the curriculum. And so we kept it very focused. The required readings span 4 key areas, and they include basic information about what AI is and approaches to using it, what we're calling a reintroduction to AI. We know that students have been introduced, and you see that on this slide, as well as a review of ethical considerations. We also include a few optional discussion questions for students for each required reading, as well as a synopsis of the readings for the faculty as they're thinking about assigning these. In another set of readings, we look at linguistic justice and equity, which is a new concept to many of our students. Um, we also look at how and why AI perpetuates bias and stereotypes. And we look at the environmental impact of AI use. So back to linguistic justice and equity, we're framing language equity or linguistic justice and equity as an acknowledgement of linguistic bias in education. So the idea that standard English is the only acceptable academic voice. And we address this not only with the readings that students do and faculty as well, but we also address this in our PAIRR feedback prompts, which we'll show you shortly, by asking AI to consider and share with students possible reader perspectives on their writing and to consider diversity within that readership, readers from a wide variety of cultural and linguistic backgrounds. We also ask the AI to focus on the effectiveness of the student's rhetorical choices rather than the student's adherence to standard academic English. And then in the next slide, we push this work a bit further um, by developing a rubric that can be optionally used with the PAIRR prompt that asks the AI to consider 5 categories when giving feedback: that the student writing is responsive to the assigned task, demonstrating an understanding of the context and purpose for writing. And I just want to also a quick reminder that all of these are in our slides. And I don't know if Anna, if you want to put those, probably you have been in the chat one more time. Maybe everyone's here and has those, but we link out to all of these materials and welcome feedback on them. So you can see the exact common rubric that we're using. But again, the other factors of the rubric are that the student content is shaping the content shaping the work is relevant and appropriate to the subject, compelling and developed. That source material, including lived experience, is appropriate to the genre and used skillfully to develop, support, and connect ideas. That the student has made structural choices to convey meaning and create a coherent journey for readers around clear central points, and that the writing draws the reader in with a distinct voice and style while communicating clearly, which may include using various Englishes or linguistic structures or various languages. That the student shows an awareness of academic convention, whether using it or subverting it. That there is attention to proofreading, and that there is awareness of the reader and reader understanding. So next, Anna was going to talk about our prompts, but if we want to pause here, we can. Or
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be
is
great.
there any discussion you
Questions,
want to pause
comments,
over?
thoughts so far? Yeah. folks are in listening mode.
All right, we can absolutely keep going as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Um, okay. So we have hopefully a more interesting story. I think when we first thought about what we'd be doing this summer in these webinars where we share our materials, it was more like one prompt to rule them all. We were going to develop this one fabulous feedback prompt that we would promote and share, bestow upon others, right? And then we had this collaborative process of testing intensively since March. We rated and reflected on, I think it's more over 200, probably 300 now, examples of AI feedback with over 20 different prompt versions. And we had lots of meetings, lots of comments in the Google Docs, and lots of versions. And in the end, we did not come to one prompt. We sort of came to some impasses, actually, where people had different kinds of assignments, different kinds of goals for the feedback. And we realized that we may need a prompt library, and that we would start with two prompts that had come out of our testing. Um, and we're actually excited to share with you both prompts and invite your comment on the contrasts. And so the first prompt that we're sharing is one that we developed this spring based on the previous research, the prompt used for that, but also input from our linguistic justice and equity consultants, Michelle Gonzalez and Keisha Quesada Turner, and lots of reading on feedback practices, as well as some research into evidence-based prompt engineering, or prompt crafting is the better term that I just heard, practices. And so that prompt includes a real focus on reader response, possible human readers' responses. So the AI is supposed to say readers might feel this or they might need this, including readers of different backgrounds, as Julie mentioned, including culturally marginalized backgrounds. Um, and we want it to quote or give very specific details from the student draft to support each point. We've asked it to describe two strengths and three considerations for revision. And to draw a really clear line to support student agency by not recommending wording or ideas. So asking questions that help students sort of discover their own solutions to the revision considerations. So a little sample of that was that the AI, this is AI feedback on that prompt, identifies sort of a bullet point revision consideration, paragraph unity and transitions. And it's sort of supposed to be encouraging and supportive. So it's saying some paragraphs present a rich blend of information, and it has a couple quotes, but shift topics rapidly. Readers may lose track of the logical flow. Suggestion: begin each paragraph with a clear topic sentence. Use transitions and short reminders to connect each paragraph's focus back to your thesis. So that's just one sort of really simple example. We worked a lot on trying to get it to be less wordy and more direct. So in contrast, the second prompt that we are using and offering our instructors this fall is more criteria based. It doesn't have the reader response emphasis. It's more direct as to does it meet the criteria for the assignment? And yeah, Yasser asks a great question. This approach can be used, could be used in high schools and secondary education as well. We've had interest in that even from middle school teachers. It's not specific to college composition because it allows the instructor to put in their assignment and their rubric. And some of the examples you'll see are actually from 10th grade high school essays that we've run. Yeah, Yasser, go ahead. You had your hand up if you want to unmute.
I asked this question because I actually, feel like it is a bit systematic and structured. It doesn't expect that the student or the teacher who's going to use it has a lot of load on the student side, like giving the instruction for the content, but not for the way the writing has to be directed. So that's why I asked that question, because you have some instructions for making a clear connection to linking topic sentences to thesis.
Mhm.
You have something related to the thesis itself, which is like in senior courses or in senior classes, you don't expect too much instruction towards how the writing is
Ah,
organized, but rather how the content is put into the specific piece. So that's why
that's
I
a
asked the
great
question.
point. Yeah, and I should clarify that this sample, perhaps I could have taken a sample from a different one because it's supposed to tailor the writing sophistication and the points of critique to the assignment and the level of the student's draft. So, I mean, I'm using the same prompt for feedback on my own writing, and it's been very good. I think it could adapt to those other levels, and it wouldn't give the necessarily that same kind of feedback on the same criteria. It's supposed to be adaptable to the assignment and the level, but you can test that soon. Um, so um, yeah, so our second prompt, the criteria-based one, gives a few more suggestions for revision. It still mentions strengths, but it's a little more directive and kind of upfront about the problems, I would say. But you'll see the examples in a second. And this is based on a prompt developed at University of California at Irvine and tested in a different study in 2024 and adapted at UC Davis. Um, we've been having so much discussion back and forth, and like this prompt has influenced the first prompt, and the first prompt has influenced the second one, but they're still sort of different. So there's been this deep collaboration, and now, you're invited into that as well because we may end up changing either or both of these further. So you can see, though, from an excerpt of this criteria-based prompt that it casts the AI as a student doing peer review. And it says, do not rewrite my paper or judge my voice or style. Um, Give clear, detailed, specific, constructive feedback. It's a pretty short prompt. And then it's here is the assignment, here is the rubric, here is my draft. So you can see that that's how it becomes tailored because you're copying and pasting your assignment and your rubric um, into the prompt. Um, so we wanted to invite you, and yeah, Yasser is making an interesting point about plagiarism, and I'm curious about that. I know, yeah, these questions about are we in a post-plagiarism era? We've kind of set that question aside by saying, okay, we're going to design this prompt so that it doesn't create plagiarism. It doesn't write for them, or even it's not supposed to feed them ideas. Um, so it's not supposed to give them like the new outline, right? Um,
So
so,
Rebecca was asking in the
um,
chat about she was asking a question
it's that.
about giving AI a paragraph and fearing that AI would give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I just answered that if you have a take on that too,
Yeah, beautiful.
either you or
Put a,
Julie.
I just put an answer in the chat as well, and we're actually gonna talk more about that
Can you
shortly as
please read it
well.
out loud so it's accessible
Yes,
as
of
well for the
course.
recording?
I wrote in our project, we are doing this with a tool that does not train on student work. We'll talk about that shortly. But I think that's an incredibly important consideration that we are really thinking about if we're using student work at all in an AI is without permission, right? Like the ethics of that. It's a great question.
So we do always provide an alternate assignment if students don't want to engage with the AI feedback. Um, and um, and yeah, as Julie said, we've chosen a tool that has been vetted by our IT departments. It is not training on student data. It is vetted for privacy. So it's got a much more protection than just using a public, chatbot. Um, so we want to just invite you to take a few minutes to look at these contrasting samples. So we've got this packet, right? It's a big Google Doc with lots of tabs, and it has all our materials that you can use and adapt if you want. And the link I put in the chat should take you right to the tab that has um, a sample quick assignment, very short student draft, and then feedback from the first type and feedback of the second type. And we want to know what you think, if you prefer one or the other, how those styles strike you, if you would use either. So you can also see the feedback prompt text, the instructions we've given, that's also open for adaptation in the same packet. So once you get into that doc and you see the tab and there's tabs, you can navigate to the prompts themselves. So hopefully, let us know if you have any difficulty getting there. I think what you'll notice is, like, if you read that first example, there's tabs after that with more examples of contrasting feedback. And maybe we'll take 7 minutes for you just to kind of read that and then complete the poll. We have a little quick poll for you. Oh, sharing the readings. Yes, the readings are in the packet. Lila, thank you. Yeah. And let me see if I can actually show the packet here. I think I've only shared this window, but I can go back to that and just share it. Yeah, it looks like it's still showing in the share. So this is the one that'll show you the contrasting feedback. First, it shows you the assignment, the rubric, and the sample essay. This is from a data set that's a publicly shared data set. It's a 10th grade student essay. And then here's the feedback from the reader-focused feedback. And this is the criteria-focused feedback. So you can get a sense. And then if you read that and you want more, over here on the left in the tabs, there's a second feedback comparison, similar but with different essay. And a third one, which is a personal statement, a law school personal statement, so different kind of writing. If you want to see, Lila asked about the readings, so those are right at one of the first tabs in the document. Actually, it's the second tab here. Student AI literacy readings. And so you can get all of those with the discussion questions up there. And the prompts themselves, you'll see reader response feedback, template, tells you how to use it too, but here's the text. Yeah, was that a question, Rebecca?
No, I didn't have a question. Sorry. I
Oh,
accidentally said something.
no worries.
I have a question,
Yeah,
Anna.
so,
I
yeah.
went to the slide number 23 and clicked on the poll, and I got a message that the Menti poll is closed. Is that?
Oh dear. Okay. Let me see if I can
I'm
fix
not there yet. I just was making sure I had a link to it. So
Oh,
no.
thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And Anna, if you need to stop sharing for a minute, you're welcome to, or Anna's the most amazing multitasker ever. So do we want to take a couple minutes right now? Does everyone want to Is that what we're doing? Do we want to?
Yeah,
Great. Beautiful.
yeah, that's the idea. Just to
We're
read the.
excited. Yeah. In the meantime, we'll do some poll repair as well. Or Anna, I'm saying we. But.
Sorry about that.
And I'll just pause the recording.
Thank you.
So it's great to see folks are participating. If you can fill out the Mentimeter poll, that'd be wonderful. It's kind of making me chuckle because so far it looks like folks are preferring the first prompt feedback, but our colleagues presented at an Association of Writing Across the Curriculum conference just about a week ago, and it was completely the other direction. People clearly preferred prompt 2 feedback. And so I think maybe, maybe I've slanted things a little bit toward prompt 1 because that's the one I've focused on, and my colleague is focused on the other. So maybe we're affecting or maybe it's a different audience, but so interesting. And I'm curious also about someone has said, I have concerns and would do this very differently or not at all. If you want to share about that, I definitely respect and value that. Definitely want to be in conversation with folks who think we shouldn't be using AI for feedback, because there's plenty of reasonable, important concerns. So if anyone, let me see if I can advance also, see if people commented. Oh, great. Okay, good to know. Someone's saying that the feedback would be too long. Yeah, it's been a big debate how long it should be, and we've actually shortened it quite a bit from what it was. So should it be even shorter? And yeah, you could definitely prompt it. We've told it be a maximum of 500 words, but you can pare that down or have it give fewer suggestions. And that's interesting. So someone's saying they like the idea of providing both critiques and strengths, and the asking it not to be racist, sexist, or promote injustice. Yeah, sometimes you have to be really explicit. It's important to ask AI not to keep your work and to avoid marginalization of others and to think about otherness. Yeah, I think that's a work in progress, how we can prompt it best to do that and maybe give it more examples. Reader-based feedback forces young writers to think in terms of their audience and develop writerly empathy. That's the vision. And in a way that's trying to counter the sense that happens with AI and writing, especially in this era, the misconception that it's about the product and that now AI has solved writing and you can just, produce this thing and you're done. But when you think about it as communication with these human readers, are they getting what you want to say? Are they getting what they need? That's a different kind of equation. Someone's saying, I think writers should be critical in accepting AI revisions to their work and to trust their own voice. They can take the advice with a grain of salt. Yes, and we hope we're doing enough to encourage that and to nudge them toward that kind of critical stance toward the feedback. I think it would be interesting to read the student's revised essay and also to look at more than one AI bot. That's a great point. So one of the things that we invite them to do is just to ask for different feedback. Give me, or feedback that contradicts. So they can chat back. And I think that's a great point that different underlying systems might give different kinds of feedback as well. We're using GPT 4.1 on the back end of my essay feedback right now. But we do, say you can use these prompts with any chatbot, and we've also used them with Claude Opus 4. So yeah, it would be interesting to compare. We do ask them, we are going to collect their revised essays and their reflections on how helpful or not the feedback was in their revision process. So that's one of the things that our study is going to look at this year. And we're curious about that too, for sure. Okay, and I think this is this Julie or is this me?
This is you,
Okay.
but I'm happy to I'm happy to take it away if you want.
Yeah, so continuing on what I said about nudging them to be critical of the feedback, we want to build in, and we're still working on exactly what this looks like, but build in reminders to them that they're asked to chat back at least twice to complete the homework assignment. So it's not just read the feedback, it's speak back to it. And we want to make that really open-ended for them, but also give them some ideas on empowering ways they could do that they might not have thought of. So ask absolutely anything about your writing, ask for clarification or explanation, push back if you disagree, share a particular challenge, whatever. And we do link to, we have some longer lists of moves they can make in response, including, ask for a new version of feedback in the style of your favorite pop star, right? Or, silly things as well that would create some kind of critical distance from the AI and remind them that it's not a human, that it's just sort of doing what we ask it to. So that's built in, that reflection is built into the process.
And then, yeah, and as we move like deeper into the metacognitive piece of this, which is that last R of the PAIRR, the reflection, students reflect on the feedback from their peers and the AI. So we frame the process for them. We ask them to look at the peer and chat feedback, and we certainly say, although someone put in the chat, I'm trying to remember that we can tell them this, that chatbots sound confident but can make mistakes and misunderstand your assignment. Second, your own voice has value. If you let a chatbot decide how you sound, it might take over your voice. Nevertheless, we realize that it's very easy for students to see AI as authoritative. Then we ask them to write their reflection on peer and AI review, and really emphasizing that this is to support their writing process, and that this is something that is a low stakes assignment and they should be doing it in their own voice. And then the actual questions that we ask them to look at as they reflect on the feedback they received, we're asking, what are your insights or perspectives on your writing, the feedback that they gained from the peer and the AI feedback? What advice did you get? So we're really naming these things and asking them, what do you think you might do? What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? Does it support your style? And then we're asking them to kind of start to frame a revision reflection. That's great. Start to frame a revision reflection, right? So we're wanting them to kind of make a revision plan. And later, after, the students have finished their revisions, we will then ask them to think about whether those came from peer review, from AI feedback, from a combination. And in the PAIRR project, and there was this, this is the second version of this PAIRR project, we found that there are many ways in which students get really different types of feedback from AI and peers. So they're having to make a choice about what they've included. And the final reflection is really important because this is where they're reflecting on those choices and they're really thinking about what they engaged with in thinking about their feedback. And sometimes even opposing types of advice end up being complementary and useful for students in the end because they're able to think about it and they're able to think about what their writing goals were and what voice they're privileging. So this student agency is a really important element.
And if you would like to play with these feedback types, we actually created these custom bots that just ask you to enter your draft, your assignment, your rubric. Of course, you would want to only use drafts that you have permission to use. Excuse me, my cat. So you can use the links in the slide to actually use these two bots to test out the two feedback types. And we just suggest, you can copy and paste your assignment and rubric as is. If you have a complex rubric table, you probably just want to take the top criteria. And
you can also use the PAIRR common rubric, which is
yes,
in the slides. In the sorry, Google packet.
yeah. But you could also test in any chatbot just by copying the prompt and inserting your assignment instructions and rubric. We just recommend you use the top model that's available to you in that chatbot. So if you're using Claude, try to use Opus 4. If you have access, even the free versions often will have limited access. And oh, I think this is Julie. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we mentioned this before, but we're experimenting with MyFest25 to make the logistics easier, data collection easier for us, and also because we found it to be a valuable tool. So it protects privacy. It doesn't collect any student information. It also syncs up with a learning management system, Canvas for most of us, in the gradebook in there, and it builds in reflection. So it's really efficient for this project, although the project is agnostic, it's tool agnostic, but we've been really enjoying it. And we can also see the students' conversations with the AI in MyFest25. So we can get automatic credit in the gradebook when you're using Canvas for completing it. And teachers can decide to how much students are able to engage or comment or required amounts of follow-up that students need to do. So the app really helps facilitate critical reflection on the AI feedback, whereas a chatbot is just in the open. There's some nice guardrails built into the app as well. A little bit more about the app. It's a FERPA compliant platform, and it's been used in a lot of states, 10 states, 5 countries. It was created by Eric Keene. It's a nonprofit. So he taught math and music at Western Washington University for a long time. And he also developed LibreText's OER homework platform, Adapt. And he got a lot of volunteer feedback from faculty, including our own Anna Mills from College of Marin here, in trying to develop this to be as supportive as possible, useful for writing instructors and their students. It's built on the platform of ChatGPT 4.1 now, I think at this point. Anna, please correct me if I'm wrong. But it uses the API through Microsoft Azure, which sounds scary, but because they work mostly with businesses, it has really much stronger privacy protections. So with this platform, the student's data is not retained, it's not trained on. The privacy protections seen, as we often talk about, there's sort of what these AI companies promise us in their privacy protections, and then there's sort of what we can hold them accountable to. And this seemed the best possibility for our work. And that is the platform that we're using.
Yeah. And so MyFest25 is sort of a partner on this grant that we're doing, and you can experiment with it. You just sign up with your email and you'll have access to try out prompts there. You can also apply to pilot with students. I think there's 100 spots for fall, for a semester for free. And beyond that, the cost is usually $12 a student per semester, which is much less than, ChatGPT EDU and other such options. And yeah, I'm a volunteer advisor on it because it was so unusual that the developer was like, I want to know how the teachers want this designed, and I couldn't resist getting involved in saying my opinions on that. So that's really what we have for you, and it would just be great to know what your thoughts are, what further resources you would hope for, questions, comments, anything you wanna say at this point.
And
We
do you think it might be
Um,
okay to also show the final slide too, since I think, are we wrapping up in just a couple minutes?
Yes, right.
We
Yeah.
maybe and I see a couple of questions, beautiful. And I also just wanted to, we wanted to let you know that we would love to keep this conversation going with y'all. Like this has been very, very rich. So if you use or modify the pair prompt or write a whole new one, find a new approach, we would really love to hear about it. The packet of materials is open for comments. And we did create this Padlet for y'all. If you use Padlets, and if you want to show it for a brief moment, the examples, we had folks make a couple examples with some graphics, but please don't let the graphics intimidate you. You can just click on the plus sign right below each category, and you can just write a few words. You don't have to, you can upload something, you can make a video, you can do an audio, whatever it's accessible. It's an accessible format. But we would love, we have a few categories for you, like share resources. John, you put some resources in the chat. If you want to take a second, throw them on the Padlet as well, so they're more archival, I would be really grateful. We would just really love a space that we can come back to and keep speaking to each other in these various communities. And then if you do modify the prompt or create your own prompt, you can throw that in the second column. And in the third column, asking each other questions or us questions about PAIRR, we're happy to answer them. And then I saw Rebecca had a question, and then I think someone else did as well. Yeah,
yeah,
Rebecca.
I just thought this was also interesting. I was wondering how we can apply this skill with fiction writing, like when writing poems or novels, besides just essays. And while I like the idea of critically engaging with AI, like asking it not to be racist, misogynistic, etc., I feel like still AI can like give false information and maybe just mm, that it's
Yeah.
that you shouldn't like just take everything it gives you and then create something yourself, and also to be aware, like if you're using these prompts in a class, like some teachers don't allow it, so it's good to like
Mhm.
think about ethics.
Mhm. Those are really great points. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I see that Lila and somebody
Lila.
has their
Yeah,
hands up.
please. Go ahead, Lila, if you're ready.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna and Julie. And this is a very interesting presentation. And thank you for yesterday's presentation as well. As I told you yesterday, I used your peer model last semester with my research writing students. They're freshman students doing like a mandatory research writing class. And we tried the peer model, they did the peer review, and we did the AI feedback. However, I didn't actually design a prompt myself for the students. To be honest, I'm teaching like Gen Z, and I know that they're tech savvy and have been using AI quite like frequently. And I wanted to see, as just given guidelines on how to prompt, like act as and give it a role, assign a role, and tell it exactly what you expect, and maybe share a copy of the rubric and your assignment prompt and so on. But I was actually curious to see how they're prompting the tool. So
Oh, interesting.
I collected the prompts. I asked them to share the
Ooh.
prompts with me.
Yeah.
And I sort of told them that they can use Perplexity Pro, as I told you yesterday. However, others were comfortable using other tools like ChatGPT or Claude. And I said,
Mhm.
okay, fine. I don't mind whichever tool you're going to use, but share the tool, share the prompt, a link to the prompt on the tool, like the history, with me.
Okay. Mhm.
Um, some of the feedback they received, of course, based on the prompt that each one of them wrote, were very detailed. And other feedback they received was like short.
Mm.
Um, However, like as you said, like when they started to reflect on the feedback they received, whether from the peer or the AI tool, they sort of discussed what they agreed with or what they disagreed with, and what
Mhm.
kind of revision plans they have, what they're going to do. And I told them like about the experience of using AI, like tell me more about the experience itself. Would they do it again? Like would they prompt AI to just give them feedback instead of just fixing fixing what they've already written? And from what I had a very like small class of like 14 to 15 students. So the feedback I received was actually promising. Many of them actually were looking forward to using AI tools to receive feedback the same way you and I did with them, like just go and ask for feedback using the rubric or maybe any other questions that you may wish for. So the experience was really good, and I'm planning to do it again. But I didn't do the readings as you did, to be honest, and I think that's a plus. What you did is amazing, and I'm gonna apply that maybe next semester. Like I'm gonna use the readings in between the peer feedback and the AI feedback. I just wanted to share the experience. I didn't have the chance to do that yesterday. I'm sorry, but thank you very much.
Yeah, I would
like to student agency involved in that. If you get permission or would want to get permission from any students and be able to share that out on our Padlet, anything that the students created, that would be super exciting to see.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll see what I can do with that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, we're also curious. What do the students do in terms of prompting on their own? What are their impulses? What is their approach? Yeah. And I know
some said ask as like a peer reviewer. Some said act as a research writing professor and give me feedback on whatever. So yeah.
Huh. Cool. Well, I know Heather's noting that we're unfortunately at time. And please do give us feedback if you're willing. And I think, oh yeah, there's a link that Yasser put in the chat for feedback. Heather and Yasser, did you want to wrap up with anything? But
No,
this
we'd
is
like to thank you
Yes.
so much for the great discussion. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Julie. I'm going to stop the recording right now, so if you have last-minute thoughts to say off recording, that they will be much
let's
appreciated.
continue the conversation. Yeah, we hope that you will post to the Padlet and